Welcome to Limited Time Only.
I'm Esther.
And I'm Susie.
Limited Time Only is the podcast for anyone who feels there aren't enough hours in their life.
And each week there's a different topic for you to get your ears around.
Featuring chat, comedy sketches and interviews with interesting people.
Limited Time Only is a pick-me-up in podcast form.
The special guest later in the episode is Kirsty Gallagher. This week it's time for Springing Forward. In this episode, you will hear a naughty swear word, specifically
Right, so Esther, are you a fan of gladiators in your house?
No, we don't. We haven't watched. We haven't watched any of this series at all. I haven't watched any.
Are you aware? Are you aware of the programme Gladiators?
I am aware of a programme called Gladiators.
You remember watching it when you were as little?
No, I wasn't allowed to watch ITV because it was common. ITV was common, so when I used to go to my Auntie Sheila's, I'd be allowed to watch Blind Date because she watched ITV there, and I thought that was marvellous.
Right, well that common programme called Gladiators,
yes,
for the common people.
It's on BBC now, so I'm allowed to watch it.
I didn't realise it had switched channels.
Yeah, and I can watch Ant and Dec now and everything because I'm a grown up, so I'm allowed to watch ITV.
Well, Ant and Dec. I mean,
yeah.
So I do watch Gladiators with my children, and we were watching my two kids who are now 10 and 6. For anyone who's been following this podcast in the beginning,
yes,
they've got older, as indeed have we. And you. But we were watching it, and my daughter Beatrice said to me and my son Henry, if you were a gladiator, what would your name be? Even if you haven't seen it, you're probably aware that there's gladiators called Storm and Electro and Legend. So I said, my gladiator name would be Panic. Henry, who's 6, said his would be Fuck.
Oh my God!
Which obviously made me laugh, and then I told him off for swearing. And then Beatrice said hers would be Tsunami. And I said, oh my gosh, that's spot on. You are a force of nature that leaves a trail of destruction in your wake. To which she said, that's really rude, Mum. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm Panic, Henry's Fuck, and you're Tsunami. That is an absolute snapshot of our... That is our characters distilled into a word each.
That's
so,
hilarious.
There you go. BBC gladiator bosses. If you need 3 new gladiators, you've got Panic, Fuck and Tsunami ready for you. Well, hello, Esther Stanford.
Hello, Susie Riddell.
And welcome back, everybody, to actual season 5 of Limited Time Only.
Oh my goodness me, amazing, very exciting. I am really excited actually. It sounded very disingenuous that, but I am actually really excited.
I'm really excited. I feel quite giddy.
Do you?
I feel a bit, you know when you get that fluttering in the top part of your chest?
Yes.
Like,
is that asthma?
Yeah, I need to get my name. Call the ambulance. No, I'm quite giddy. I feel a bit nervous.
Do you?
Yeah, like in a good way.
Yes, like in a yeah.
I'm going on a date with someone I really like kind of way. It's you, Esther.
I'm getting flutterings now as well.
Oh, but not talk too much about them.
No, let's not.
The first 5 minutes.
There'll be an aubergine emoji floating around later.
Floating aubergine. That's the name of my strip club.
Oh, is it? That's a great name for a strip club. Like 2 aubergines.
Floating aubergine.
Floating aubergine.
What was it? Coyote Ugly.
Oh, yes.
Forget that. Floating aubergine.
Full of middle-aged women gyrating. Like hooters.
Yes.
But they'll be called saggers.
Saggers. Droopers.
Droopers.
Hooters is next door. Droopers come this way.
It's for the next stage.
Well, anyway, enough about tits.
Yes.
Let's get back to this pair of tits, me and you.
Absolutely.
It is series 5, which I'm thrilled about. Yeah, I'm thrilled that we're on season 5. Season 5 somehow feels, I mean, it's solid, isn't it?
It is solid. I mean, we do disappear for great swathes of time, but yes,
we're busy people, Esther.
We are busy people. Got things to do. So tell me, what have you been doing, Susie?
What have I been doing?
I mean, we had a little catch up at Christmas, didn't we? And we told everybody about your play and stuff like that. But
well, that's it, really.
Okay.
I mean, I've done nothing else since then.
No.
So I've been still recording The Archers, and that's great, and I still love doing that, obviously. And I've been mainly trying to help my kids settle in a new city.
Yes,
we're still in Hove, although we have moved again.
I swear you're in witness protection, Suze, because every 6 months it's like, right, you're like the littlest hobo.
Oh,
yeah. Maybe tomorrow I'll want to settle down.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah,
Maybe
you're like a big Alsatian.
I'll just keep rolling on. That always made me cry.
Yeah, me too.
So sad.
It did make me cry, and what also made me cry was what were the ones with Cyril sneering? Cyril sneer, and they'd got like funny downturned noses, and they were pink. Do you know what I mean?
Cyril sneer, yes.
Cyril sneer.
Was it a cartoon or a puppets?
Cartoon. It was.
If any of you remember Cyril Sneer, I do remember him. What made you cry about it?
Oh, because
was he mean?
No, it was a lovely show, but there was one episode. Oh, my parents were in the middle of a divorce, and there was one episode where one of the characters wanted to run away because they were sad, and I thought about doing it, and then I remember telling my mum afterwards that I'd thought about it because I'd felt sad, and so I'd felt like this connection to Cyril Sneer and this. Cyril Sneer wasn't a nice character, but I remember feeling this connection to this animation, and it really moved me.
Google it.
Yes. Do you know what? That's a very clever idea.
I mean, we are actually sitting in front of laptops. Well, I'm not. I'm too far. My arms don't quite reach. If you're watching this, you'll be able to see
the raccoons.
Yes, I like the raccoons.
1985 to 1991, and it's actually a Canadian series. A greedy aardvark businessman. He is among the most famous tycoons who reside in Evergreen Forest.
Oh yeah, that's famous
forest.
Famous place for tycoons.
Yes,
that forest.
That's where Elon lives. Elon and Bezos and Zuckerberg, and now we're going to burn it down. Well, so it's a new year today.
It is a new year, but I was just thinking about Littlest Hobo and dog, obviously, and I have just met the cutest dog I've ever seen. And this dog, very aptly, weirdly, was called Luna.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not kidding. This dog, I will actually post a picture. But the dog looks like a cross between a puppy and a lamb.
Oh, maybe like a little cavapoo, or
no, it was a miniature poodle. And I think she just had a fleecing, sticking with the lamb metaphor. Yes. But she had very long, thin leggies and the strangest ears on a dog I've ever seen.
Oh.
Sort of very, lamb-like, sheep-like, and sticking up. So cute. Oh
did you ask if you could take a photo, or did you just sort of randomly
we were talking to the lady. I said, do you mind if I take a photo? Because I wanted to show my kids because they're desperate for a dog. And I also petted the lamb dog. But the fact that she was called Luna kind of freaked me out slightly. Because obviously this episode is going out on the spring equinox. And we're also interviewing Kirsty Gallagher later, who is the author of Lunar Living and very knowledgeable about the effects of the moon on us and on the earth. So I thought, oh, good grief.
That's a sign.
It's happening.
It's happening. Everything's aligning.
It is aligning. And I will post a picture of this lovely doggy. And I will start speaking in coherent sentences.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
We interrupt this programme with a U-bash. The spring equinox is when the Earth is perpendicular to the Sun, with the latter shining in a straight line towards the equator. This means that the North and South Poles are equal distances away from the sun, so daytime and nighttime are equal in length. Or, in other words, summer's on its way, people. Ring the bells and stock up on sun cream and those tiny little bottles of French beer. Handy for the beach. Goodbye.
I told you I was excited.
Well, I'm delighted you're excited. I'm excited. I'm excited to be back because it is.
You talk.
It's,
You talk.
okay. It's basically a new year, isn't it? And we spoke about this the other day, but I do think January the 1st is the wrong time for a new year because, you've had all the fairy lights, you've had that collective energy, you've had all the food in the world, and then
You've had your one Christmas present that you get now. You're 40.
Present, and then you get to the 1st of January and you say, right, strip away the fairy lights, strip away the food, strip away the enjoyment. You can't see anyone, you've got no money, and now you've got to go hard on the exercise and hard on the and it's
This sounds like an advert for floating aubergine, to be honest. Strip away, now go hard.
And I just think now definitely feels like the right time for a new year, and I'm very energized by the plants erupting from God, everything's going to sound sexual. Erupting from the soil and the blue skies.
Yes,
and it's gorgeous. I love it.
Do you know what I did today?
Please tell me.
I went for a cold water swim.
Oh, did you?
In the sea.
Oh, lovely.
And it really, really helped me mentally and physically prepare for this, as you can hear. But it was great. It was absolutely ruddy freezing. Actually, calling it a swim is probably over-egging the pudding there. It was a dip. No, although I was in for probably a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
With my thermal booties and my thermal gloves. I forgot my hat. But I was in and I did swim a little bit, and it was a bit overcast today, but there was blue sky poking through, and it is phenomenal being in the water. And it was a little bit wavy, which was great. But everything does become brighter and clearer, and I felt really energized when I got out. And absolutely effing freezing. But, toweled off, rubbed down. My friend had a little hot water bottle that she'd brought.
Oh.
So she's more experienced than me. So this is what I've got to do next time. And then we all went for a coffee. It was me. And in fact, I met two lovely ladies I've never met before. Had a lovely, hilarious time having a coffee. And thank you very much to my friend Helen for organising that, because it was really lovely to meet new people, because I'm still new down here.
Yeah.
So in fact,
it's kind of like a new year for you, isn't it? 'Cause it's a new start. You're having a new chapter.
Yes, very much. And I really want to make the most of it. And I think that energy, that feeling of, like you say, the plants erupting from the soil again, and the leaves coming back and the sun poking out finally is still so sexual. But
it's
it's
carry
a
on in my
rebirth.
head too. I've got Barbara Windsor floating around and
floating around with the aubergine. I know I don't know what happens to us, Esther, when we turn these mics on. But it does feel filth. It does feel like that this is the time of year, and so it's absolutely the right time for us to start again with limited time only.
It is. And do you have any resolutions? Because now's the time to make them, isn't it?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking I sort of don't really have resolution other than a word came to my head, and I thought I'm going to have a word for the year. So I'm going to ask you what your word for the year is in a minute. But I think for me, and this morning really highlighted it for me, was community.
Oh,
and I think that's
lovely.
one of the reasons that we started doing this, because we wanted to form a community.
Yes.
Of, everyone listening, even though we're not, connected physically, we may never have met, and certainly everyone listening to this hasn't met each other, but it's a community of people. And I really want to be more within the community in my new area, and especially with women. So it's lovely to meet other women. And it just feels like a good word to take into the year. And I think because in a way it is harder as you get older sometimes to have a community, because especially with younger children, because you're kind of trapped into their timelines, aren't you? And I don't get the opportunity to go out a lot, and it is hard to do even, go and do a hobby. And
I have done hobbies in the past, but I haven't got any here. I've got no hobbies, Esther.
I've never had a hobby, Suze. I do need to get one. It's
You need to get a
ridiculous.
hobby,
I
but
know.
you create communities yourself within your teaching. And Esther runs very successful actors workshops, everybody. So if you're in or around Birmingham and you're an actor, get involved.
Hit me up.
Hit her up. But that's a community of people, isn't it? And I know you've spoken about how much you enjoy seeing those people, being in a room with those people.
Yeah, I do. I love it, and I do. I love community. But there's two things that came to mind when you were talking. Then one was community is such a great word for the year, and actually that's part of what I'm feeling for this year. And my word, I just picked joy because I just sort of thought I heard not Kate Bush or Kate Winslet, Kate Moss say that she thinks that everything should be fun. The first one. And everything should be fun. Life should be fun. So for her, life is about fun. And I thought, yeah, it's just about bringing the joy into everything, which I try and do anyway. But yes, but community is a really good word for the year. And that is something that I think as a society we're sort of starting to, it's sort of not there. So I'm really trying to create it more and more. And I think particularly for actors, it's very isolating being an actor, and it's, often got quite low self-esteem, or your scene gets knocked because you're just putting yourself out and getting rejected or getting and so I really love that I've got this amazing group of actors that I'm working with. I can't begin to tell you. They bring me so much joy, and I love working with them, and I love enabling them. And my sort of resolution for the year, I do have another point I want to come back to, but my sort of resolution for the year is let's rip up the rule book. I'm always looking at what the route is that I'm supposed to take, and I'm like, I'm not playing these games anymore. Just create your own stuff, make your own stuff happen. We're all like, how do I do this, and should I follow this path? And now I'm like, fuck it, rip up the rule book, and we're going to do this differently, and we're going to get you, and like these brilliant actors, we're going to get you seen, we're going to put showcases on, and we're going to get people to see you, and you're going to get you creating your own work, and let's not wait for gatekeepers. That's quite an impassioned statement. But the other thing you were saying about community, he reminded me of a wonderful friend of mine who I adore, who moved to the Channel. Yes, obviously I adore you. But another of my friends who moved to the Channel Islands a few years ago and has sometimes talked to me about the fact that, and to the rest of the group, about how difficult it is to make friends as really good solid friends when you've moved to a new area as somebody who's in their 20s 30s, well, probably more like 30s 40s 50s, because you've got a group and it's hard to integrate. And I said to her, well, actually, if I think about it, we're a group of 5, and it would be very hard for anybody to come into that group because we've all known each other for the 30 odd years. So we might invite somebody in occasionally, but we're the tight group, and there's a group of us workshop sisters, and we would have people involved in that sometimes, but we're the little group, and there's, you know what I mean? And so I think, with you moving down there to integrate fully and make real friends, that's quite a thing because you haven't got that history with them. It is. So it's brilliant that you've got Helen and she's introducing you to lovely people and taking you for coffee, because
Helen and I have known each other for, oh my goodness, I don't know, 15 years or something.
Brilliant.
And we've only hung out really properly probably a few times away from, we actually met at choir. We met at the City of London Choir. And then the friends I met with her today, they've known each other for 10 years quite solidly through children and that shared experience. But they were so lovely, these two ladies, so welcoming. And it really, it was great. It was a really invigorating morning.
That's brilliant.
Topped off by recording this with you.
Well, there you go. You're getting that social side topped up. You're getting your cup filled up.
You do need it, don't you? You need.
Oh my God,
you need
so
to
much.
be out of these houses and
because that's the downside of working from home. I think is that my husband works from home and he's in the office one day a week. But then I think if I wasn't working from home, oh my God, he'd be so isolated. And there's no sort of. I mean, we converted one. We're very lucky. We've got a 4-bedroom house, and we converted one of the bedrooms into 2 offices. But it was still in our house, and it's quite hard to separate off. So there's no distinction between work and home, really, because you're sort of putting a wash on in the middle of the day and stuff like that. Or dealing with, well, it's that episode of Motherland. My daughter's really into Motherland, and we've rewatched the series so many times, and it's so good. But where Julia's trying to work from the bedroom, and then Amazon's delivering a parcel, and then her husband's going, "Can you just do this?" And it's that, isn't it? So I think community and that socializing, and I'm so glad you're getting that down there, because it's brilliant. I think I'm so passionate about us all connecting with each other, because basically I think we're all, like, most people are good, aren't they? Most people, like majority of people, are lovely people, and we just all looking for connection. And I think well, maybe connection might be my word then, but community is a great word.
But it's exactly, well, and both of those things with this podcast, we wanted to sort of highlight the fact that there are lots of similarities between us all, aren't there?
Yes.
And that's what I love when I talk to you. I go, oh yeah, that's happened to me too. So that side of it as well, the connection, knowing that you aren't alone in these thoughts or these feelings or these experiences, and sharing that. We were laughing so much this morning about things particularly to do with children. It's good, it's good to know I'm not an absolute shit parent, because there are other people equally bad.
What I learned is my friends are crap at parenting. Wouldn't do that.
Oh, we're all dreadful. But yeah, this is good. And I think I'm excited about this series as well of LTO. I'm excited about this very episode. In fact, we've got a fantastic chat with Kirsty Gallagher coming up, and some great guests for the rest of the series.
We're very lucky. We've got some amazing people coming
and some
on.
good plans, haven't we, Esther?
We have got some good plans.
Because should we say? We should mention.
Yeah, do it, Pet.
All right. So every 2 weeks there's going to be an episode of LTO coming out, like this one, as you're familiar with. So we'll have our chats, our comedy sketches, and our interviews with interesting people, as always. And then in between those episodes, in the weeks where there would normally be nothing, we're going to have what is called limited time only brief.
Aubergine time again.
Briefs. No, it is brief. And these are going to be much shorter episodes, which just contain a chat. Now, obviously, Esther and I come up with the topics for the chats ourselves currently. But for these LTO brief episodes, we want you, lovely listener, to come up with the topics. So what we thought we'd do is get the topic ideas, lots of topic ideas, put them into a fancy hat, and then when we go to record the LTO brief, we basically pick a topic out of this fancy hat and go for it. So there's no prep, no
like our episodes.
hesitation. I know it's no different from any other time, is it? But we're going to give ourselves a bit of a time limit and see what happens. And so if you want to suggest a topic, and we hope you do, you're going to have to get on the email list. And to do this, how do they do this, Esther?
I don't know, Susie.
Aw, bless. Thank goodness for Gen Alpha. I can tell you that to join the LTO community, you can sign up using the link in the show notes for this podcast, or by heading to the Limited Time Only Podcast Instagram account and following the link in the bio or in our stories. Alternatively, you can pop us an email. Send it to limitedtimepodcast@gmail.com. Once you've signed up, you'll receive beautifully infrequent newsletters of manageable length featuring news of upcoming guests, first access to tickets for live shows, and the chance to suggest topics for LTO brief episodes. Don't worry, I've got Susie and Esther on a strict training program to equip them for technology in the modern age. I've started them off with learning a TikTok dance. Wish me luck.
Easy peasy. Then we'll bung you on the list, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, floating aubergines your place of worship. I'm so sorry. What's happened to me? It's the swim.
Something's got in your system, hasn't it, sis?
Something's got inside me.
Yeah.
And now on BBC Twit Twoo, it's time for the first episode of Spring Equinox Watch. We join our flighty hosts on location, where they've been avian, a hoot, of a time. Because they're birds. You get it? Aren't I clever?
Hello and welcome to 2025's Spring Equinox Watch with me, Chris Peckham.
And me, Michaela Flapham. We're perched on our favourite oak branch in this busy urban park to bring you a bird's eye view of spring.
Particularly the stirrings of spring amongst our unfeathered friends, humans, as they emerge from their hibernation. Humans spend the winter months, about 3/4 of the year, gorging on cheese, moaning about the cold and talking about exercising, but not doing it.
It's exciting to see them out in the open. I can just see a lady who's replaced her thick winter coat with a thinner spring one for the first time today. So many humans in the UK forget that although the sun may be shining, they still don't live in the Mediterranean. It's only 4 degrees and it's going to be a long, cold journey to work.
There's Peter from number 64 in his Speedos. He foolishly signed up for a swim in the lake here to celebrate the coming of spring and now wishes he was dead. He'd be warmer.
Miranda from the co-op has been munching Easter eggs since Boxing Day, so she's starting her New Year's resolution in March. She jogged 50 metres before collapsing on a bench with a cream egg.
Oh yes, and fascinating activity, Michaela, on the high street as hundreds of women stumble along carrying bags of spring-cleaned items from their overflowing houses, flooding the charity shops with absolute tat. One woman is attempting to deposit her husband at the Cats Protection League shop. Once a human is infected with the Marie Kondos, nothing is safe.
There's a very optimistic gentleman with bare legs.
No, that's Jeff. He's worn shorts every day since 1983.
Right. Join us tomorrow for the next episode of Spring Equinox Watch, when the forecast is for snow.
And Ella from number 25 will have to hastily reschedule her ill-advised spring picnic for June, or possibly July.
In the meantime, remember, it's only 9 months until Christmas again. Bye-bye.
Hello!
Hello! So lovely to meet you.
Andrew, I'm just checking. I've had to put a big sign on the door because I'm due 3 parcels to say, please do not knock on my door. And I'm just checking you can't see my big sign for the postman that's like, do not knock on my door, whatever you do. I had visions of like the little man appearing here and banging the door down while we're in the middle of something like sacred and spiritual.
Today's guest is Kirsty Gallagher, the UK's leading voice in spirituality and soul-led personal development. Kirsty's a moon mentor, soul alignment and spiritual coach, yoga and meditation teacher, podcaster, and a Sunday Times best-selling author. She is renowned for her deep knowledge of the divine feminine, goddess energy, lunar cycles, astrology, and living in tune with the natural rhythms of the world around us. Through her books, workshops, and teachings, Kirsty helps people reconnect with ancient wisdom, realign with their soul's purpose, and step into their true power. We talked to Kirsty about how the moon affects us physically, why this is an unprecedented time in astrological history, how the spring equinox is the real start of the new year, and why now is the time to fully trust ourselves and let go. Welcome to the show, Kirsty Gallagher.
There we go.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to this. We are so excited. We're both really big fans of your work. And when we've told people that you're coming on, everyone keeps going, what? That's amazing.
Yes, and I wanted to say a personal thank you because I have been listening to your Cosmic Weather Report recently on a Sunday because I didn't realise it came out on a Sunday. I thought it was Monday. So I've been getting it early. And it really has been a sort of lifeline every week. And so I wanted to say thank you. And I'm actually coming along to the spring equinox ceremony in London on the 22nd.
22nd, yeah.
So I'm thrilled about that.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited to share it with you. It's going to be so, we're already feeling like the call of the women coming in, and both Lou and I, who I'm doing it with, are both like, oh, this feels so big. It feels so big.
Yeah, it feels like and actually, well, yeah, we are recording, so we might as well we'll jump in and say hello, Kirsty Gallagher. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Susie, and this is Esther, by the way. Never met before. I've met Esther, but we've not met you. We're absolutely thrilled, and I think
I mean, I keep hearing from you and from other people that I follow, within kind of astrology or tarot as well, that it's a big month, and it's a huge time of year. And I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so we've never seen astrology like we're getting in 2025. Like so many astrologers I know and really respect. So I tend to seek out really old school astrologers who don't have social media or anything like that. And everyone I'm speaking to, no one can find in history, recorded history, a year like this year. And it will have happened at some point before because everything is cyclical. But in our recorded history, we cannot find a time like this. And March is probably going to be one of the biggest months for this, because March, as I'm sure we'll get to talking about, is when we get the astrological new year. And so this month is almost kind of saying to us, it's time now for those new beginnings. It's time for really discovering who you came here to be, what it is you came here to do, what it is that you want. So we've got this month for what's known as Casimes, we've got eclipse season, we've got Mercury retrograde, we've got Venus retrograde, we've got Neptune changing signs for the first time in 164 years. So this month, we've got a really big month of, it's almost kind of like a death rebirth portal where we're really being asked to shed those old versions and layers of ourselves and those old beliefs and anything outdated, close out old soul contracts, release any karma, and really then begin to, it's almost like a timeline shift where we turn towards something new and say, this is the life I want to begin to live for myself. And this month is almost that kind of catalyst moment where we're going to really walk through that portal into something new.
It's so weird that you say that, actually, because I do breath work intermittently, and I did it last week at the end of the week, and I had this, I'm very visual when I do it, and I always release something, but I literally felt myself step out of layers of versions of me and stand up.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I could feel myself growing and getting bigger within the room. And it was such a powerful experience. But you saying shedding the layers, that's literally what I was doing. I could see myself at different ages and they were sort of falling away, and it was sort of leaving something behind.
Beautiful.
So do you think that everybody on some level collectively feels that then?
I do. I mean, the one thing I always like to make clear about astrology, because there's a lot of fear mongering in astrology, and you do find, I mean, we live in a very clickbait society now, don't we, where the more like scary or divisive something is, the more it's going to get attention. And the one thing I always try to really allow people to understand about astrology is that astrology is this beautiful map where the planets will give us guidance around what is happening on Earth. And it's almost like it gives us this navigation system. It's like, okay, up here, there's going to be a little pothole. Over here, there's going to be a dead end that you might not want to go down. Over here, there's going to be an opportunity. But the planets don't make us do anything. So it's not like we're made or forced to do things. We have complete free will as humans. But because, I mean, we're made of stardust, and that's not me just being all like we're made, like we're actually made of stardust. We're made of the same elements as all of these planets. It's where we came from. And so the planets on some level, or the shifts that are taking place, will affect people, but it depends on how aware we are and how willing we are to work with that energy. So some people will kind of go down kicking and screaming. Some of us will be like, I'm ready, bring it on. Yeah. Some of us might just be like, I don't believe in any of it. I'm not feeling anything. But collectively right now, we've got this opportunity to really tap into a very revolutionary, evolutionary, transformational energy. And I do believe we're going through one of the biggest shifts in consciousness we've ever been through. And so for those of us who are ready for it, it's going to be a really exciting time.
And I think when you're
go on, see, sorry.
Well, I was going to say when you're aware of it, because because I listen every week, and I also follow, I don't know if you know Lindsay Mack, who is a tarot reader. She has a podcast called Tarot for the Wild Soul. She's based in America. But I listen to her monthly medicine, she calls it. And there is definitely, I mean, it's clear that it's everyone who has knowledge of this, of all this, is feeling the same way. And I think if you're aware of it, you can acknowledge things in your life that, and I go, well, no, but that actually really, this month really is that for me. And it's that being aware of it, isn't it, almost, so that you don't ignore those signs and synchronicities
and feelings
Yeah.
that you don't just pass them off, that you go, okay, I can actually work with this.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like we can walk through life believing in nothing and not seeing any of the magic. And I always say this to people, it depends on where you're going to look. You can look at everything that's going wrong in the world, everything that isn't right, everything that's awful about your life. You can not believe in any of the magic. You can say that every sign or synchronicity is like, oh, well, that's nothing. Oh, well, it just, it happened. There's no such thing as it. Or you can begin to look at it that we're in this beautiful co-creation with the universe where everything's being weaved and everything's happening for us, not to us, and everything is an opportunity to grow. And for me, those beliefs help me to live my life in a way that even when I have really tough and challenging times, I can navigate them differently because I don't tend to go into that victim mode of like, oh, poor me, and this is awful, and this is horrible, and oh my God. I go into like, okay, right, what can I learn from this? What is this showing me? What's being asked of me right now? What am I being asked to shed and release? How am I being asked to step up and grow? So holding those beliefs just help us to navigate life differently. And again, I do believe at the moment there's a big shift where people are just looking for something to believe in, something bigger, something greater, something to help us to make more meaning of this life that we're in at the moment. And so astrology and all of these things just give us this beautiful, almost guidance system to help us.
Yeah.
It feels sort of like the tectonic plates are shifting in the world, doesn't it? It's been coming for a long time. I mean, there's been a build-up every year, I think. I don't want to hear the word unprecedented again this year. I want to just have a normal year where it's just normal stuff. And every year it sort of gets wilder and wilder. Like there's these weird script writers in charge of everything.
Yeah.
So what do you see when you look at 2025?
I mean, first of all, I was speaking to a friend about this last night because I don't think I'd ever even used the word unprecedented until 2020. I was like, I probably knew the word existed, but I was like, I've never used this word. And I think we thought 2020 was going to be this big thing and that was going to be the shift. And since then it's been like, oh, no.
Yeah.
So I see 2025 as now being this opportunity to take what we've seen and acknowledged and learned over the past few years and to really now begin to do things differently. And one of the things that I'm really trying to kind of drum into people as much as I can at the moment is this this understanding that no one is coming to save us. And the whole time that we're looking to the outside world and we're saying, well, if only there was someone different in charge, or if only this would change, or if only they would treat me more nicely, or if only my boss wasn't horrible, or if only my partner did these things for me, that I would be able to be happy. And instead, the shift we're being asked of at the moment is to live from the inside out and to take back our power and to realize that we are a soul having a human experience and we are made of stardust and we are the universe in a human body. And that if we want to see change happen in the world, it has to start with each one of us. It has to start. And we're taught that we're not powerful. We're taught that we're too small to make a difference. And while we all walk around believing that, that's exactly what's going to happen. But as soon as we all begin to take our own power back in our life and begin to realize that the change starts with us, and even, if you look in the outside world and you're like, well, there's so much division and there's so much hatred. It's like, well, first of all, look within. Where are you divided in yourself? Where are you being mean to yourself? Where are you talking horribly to yourself? Where is that constant narrative telling you you're so stupid? How did you do that? Because that's that same energy that then breeds out there. Where are you being awful to your neighbor? Where are you being in conflict with this person? Let's bring it back and realize that the more and more and more of us that then step into our full power and go, this is who I am. This is what I'm capable of. I'm a powerful co-creator. This is the kind of world I want to create. And therefore, I'm going to begin to create it in my world. The more that will ripple out. So what we're seeing in 2025 in particular, and this is where people without perhaps the understanding or the beliefs that we have are really struggling with it, is we're seeing the old paradigms crumbling before our eyes. It's falling down. It's the illusion is beginning to fall. And in that, it looks like a really big mess. And the best way I describe it to people is it's like that moment where you decide you want a new kitchen or a new bathroom and everything's been ripped out and you're looking at it, it's in a mess all over the floor, or you decide you're going to clear out your wardrobe, so you pull everything out of the wardrobe. And we're in this moment now where we're looking at the mess and going, oh my God, why did I start this? Like, what am I going to... But in that now, it's the opportunity to build something new, to go, well, I don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. I don't want that anymore. That doesn't fit me anymore. And instead now let me build and create something that I actually really do want. And so we're in, I know it might not feel like it, but we are in such exciting times right now. We really are.
And
That's brilliant.
yeah, it's very, and you just speak so well. I just could listen to you all day. But do you think, I mean, I've been reading I've been reading this and all the other books, but thinking about women particularly with regard to all that. I mean, and also I think women who have reached the kind of middle years, get to sort of getting to 40 into 40s. Do you think that it particularly resonates for that section of people because we are sort of boxed in some way? And
this
also
is our witch age, isn't it? This is when we all become witches in our 40s.
Absolutely.
And being a mother and being because when you said that, I suddenly the thought of you've got to sort yourself out before you can help other people. It's putting your oxygen mask on before anyone, because I always now think I've got to get myself ready before I can get those kids ready. And it feels like that, like I'm almost starting to take back my power, like I've been sort of dissipated on a personal level and obviously the global scale as well. But yeah, women obviously very important to you to get that message to them.
100%. I mean, you've just described it a couple of days ago. I described it to a friend and I was like, I really wintered this year. I hibernated more than I've done for a really, really long time. And again, I think it was necessary for us because we're coming into this big year. It was almost like our souls saying, you've got to rest because you've got to be ready. But then at the start of the year, I was finding it even hard to get back in. And I was finding a frustration with myself almost because I'm like, but I know I've got so much more to offer and to give, and yet I've just not got the energy. And a few days ago, it's like the power got turned back on again. And I was like, this is what it feels like to feel alive again. Like, oh my, how have I forgotten? I felt like I've been in the dark for such a long time. And now I'm like, oh, praise the light again. So it's really felt like our light's been put back on again. But I think I'm passionate, especially working with women. And there's so many little threads we could pick up on what you just said, because I think women, more than men certainly, have been for decades, centuries, pitted against each other with our bodies, our behaviours, our beauty standards, all put up for scrutiny. We've been taught to mistrust other women. This all feeds into the witch wound, if that's where we want to go into. And the reason that women or the feminine really got diminished, if we look at it, we look back to the witch trials and things, is because the patriarchal structures of power are terrified of women in the fullness of their own power, because we are the creative life force energy of the universe. We are the dark goddess who will come in and tear it all down as well as create something new. And so a woman in the fullness of her power is actually quite threatening to those who seek to control. And that's why if you look at all the women that got burned and killed back in the days, it was the wild women, the wise women, the single women who wouldn't submit. It was the older women who got to crone, who just didn't care anymore. And so if we look even historically, kind of in our lifetime, one of the easiest ways to take someone's power away is to make them dislike themselves. And so as women now, we're constantly bombarded with inject this should look like this should look like that, you shouldn't look like that, you shouldn't behave like that. I mean, it baffles me that one week our bum is meant to be big and the next week it's meant to be small, and it's like I don't
can't keep up. I don't know.
But even I don't know how we're meant to do that. Our hair becomes cut, like our actual bodies, like we can't keep up. But it's this constant narrative: you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. And that's one of the easiest ways to disempower someone, is to make them dislike themselves. And if I'm worrying about the shape of my bum or that I've got some wrinkles on my forehead, I can't be powerful. I cannot be powerful because I'm worried again about what we also need to bear in mind is that these standards are created by the people who actually profit from us believing we're not enough or wanting therefore to adhere to it. And so it's when we resign from that and we say, actually, no more, no more, no more, no more. And we begin to really, again, reclaim that power and wisdom. And as you say, we step into the role, especially as we come into our 40s, women are taught that we get to a certain age and we're useless and we're on the heap and all of these kind of things. And again, if we look historically, it's when a woman came into, especially around those menopausal years, because if we look at a woman's bleed, when a woman stops bleeding, a woman's bleed is seen as the ancient wisdom. She retains all of her inner wisdom. She moves into that deep wisdom place. And so when women reach crone energy and we reach that menopausal energy, what you find is that many women who've been through menopause don't give a anymore. They just
Yeah.
don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's all those societal standards that said your bum should look this way. You're just like, I don't care. So then we become uncontrollable when we get into that age. So again, there's so much more pressure put on. And I think it's beautiful that menopause, perimenopause and things are being talked about. But I feel even in that, there's sometimes a tiny bit of fear-mongering that now women in their mid-30s are like, oh my God, I'm already in perimenopause. And it's like, my darling, you've got about 15 years left.
Yeah.
Like, let's just stop again this whole narrative of this is going to break and that's going to break. And let's instead just find the power and the wisdom in that coming of age and embracing the grey hair or embracing the wisdom or embracing the extra rage. You often find women around this age come into like rage because all of a sudden they realise how we've been suppressed, we've been silenced, we've held down our voices, we've not spoken, we've shrunk ourselves, and all of a sudden this sacred rage comes through that's like absolutely no more.
Yeah.
It's a rite of passage, it really is. So if you stop looking out there and you go in here, again, it's that same thing. Stop looking out there, come in, be in that rite of passage.
That's what I was going to say, actually. It's all outward. I was thinking about if I had a New Year's resolution. I don't really do them anymore because I always fail and instantly and then feel shit about myself.
We can talk about that.
Well, exactly. And then I realised, and I think I said it to Suze, in fact, I did a few weeks ago, I said, I'm going to stop this year. What I'm going to stop doing is looking outward and trying to fix myself, because I'm constantly trying to fix myself. And I know I've got an underactive thyroid. Well, how can I fix it? And I know a lot of that is actually about the fact that I didn't always speak my truth. And there was stuff that went on. And so there's stuff, whenever I do a breathwork session, I always get stuck in my throat and then it releases, which is really interesting. And now I feel like if I stop looking at, oh, well, actually, how could I lose that cortisol belly? Or how could I actually just be? What do I actually want? Do I need a side hustle? Do I, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff that we're bombarded with. And I heard you say something about finding your purpose and about trusting yourself. And it said, excuse me, it was really interesting. You said, one, we don't trust ourselves because we don't do what we say we're going to do. And I read that last year and thought, yes, that's so true. I say I'm going to do some yoga every day. I don't, and then I beat myself up. So put something in that's achievable. And then we don't trust ourselves because we think, well, I never do what I say I'm going to do. And then I heard you say that you'd said to a friend, like if a friend said to you, can I have you for 10 minutes tomorrow? I need some help with something. You go, yes, of course, but you won't give yourself that time. And that's an element of trust, like just not trusting yourself as a person. Not really a question, it's more a scramble of thoughts.
Yeah, but it's so true, because even like what you just said, we've been taught to mistrust the wisdom of our own bodies. And even if we look at the medical industry, though, everything's tested on men, you know. So even when we look at the medical industry, it's like, but none of this has ever been tested on female bodies, with fluctuating hormones and going through birthing and mothering and menopause and all these kind of things. And I'm not saying don't seek help from the medical establishment, but what I'm saying is, first of all, why can we not come back to the wisdom of our own bodies and just sit with our bodies and ask her? All of our we've been taught to live from here. We've been taught to live from the neck up into our head. Think it, logic it, put it in a spreadsheet, make it make sense. And that's when, as women particularly, we disconnect from that ancient primal wisdom within us. And it all lives within our bodies. And again, because we've been taught to dislike our bodies, we disassociate from our bodies. And then we miss that deep wisdom in there. So when we can come back into the wisdom of our bodies, that's when we really begin to make change. And then, just as you said, we constantly abandon ourselves. Let me ask them for the answer. Let me phone a friend for the answer. Let me look outside there for the answer. Let me go to that for the answer. Let me look to this video. Let me read that article for the answer and this article for the answer. And we constantly look outside of ourselves. And or we say, I'm going to start meditating tomorrow, and we don't. So then again, we don't do what we promised. And then we come back to that same self and go, tell me what my purpose is. And that same self is like, you don't even keep your promises to me. So how can I trust you? And you abandon me by going to look outside of you for all of the answers. So how can, like, you don't trust me? So as soon as we come back into that trust with self and that relationship with self and keeping promises to self, and again, if in deep dark emotions we've been very much taught to fear emotions like anger, rage, sadness, loneliness, anxiety, overwhelm, we try to run away from them. If you can sit with yourself in these moments and say, okay, Kirsty, you're feeling sad, I'm not going anywhere, my darling. I'm going to sit here with you in the sad. I then trust myself that I can be with myself through anything big, whether that's a leap into the unknown or a big shift or change, because I know that I'm not going to abandon myself at the first sign of things getting hard. And so it really all comes back to just being with yourself.
Yeah.
Not
was
running
think-
away from the feelings and sitting with them.
And also giving yourself a break, because I was obviously listening to, you throughout January and February, and that feeling of, oh yeah, can't get going yet, and we're in hibernation, and we're spring is the time, as nature tells us, that we're kind of, ready to burst back. And I was like, oh God, I am absolutely knackered all the time. And I have actually been better the last few weeks, last month or so, at just going, okay, you just need to lie down today. Just lie down. Don't push it. Because I'm constantly pushing against myself and trying to keep going. And then you burn out. And that's so common, isn't it? That we don't let ourselves rest.
No, but again, it's the world we live in. We glorify being busy. Oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I'm so busy. And we have this innate, I guess, drummed in belief within us that if we're not doing something, we're nobody. When in actual fact, I'm the most somebody I ever am in the moments that I'm just laying on the floor, allowing myself to be and receive and rest. Because again, we've been taught everything is outside of us. My worth lies in how much I've achieved today, how many meetings I've had today, how much I've hustled today, how much I've done this today. And again, once we can break up with that narrative and go, actually, if that's what you want to do, you can do that. That's not for me anymore. Again, your life becomes so much more beautiful, because as females, we have this constant cycle, just like nature, where we go into those periods. If we don't honor that rhythm and that flow, and we try to push against it, that's again when life just becomes very, very difficult.
Yeah, we've talked about this as well, because I read the Catherine May book, and I know Suze has as well, Wintering, and I am definitely, I mean, my husband calls me the dormouse through the winter months, because I'm just constantly napping, and all of my ambition goes. And rather like you were saying the other week, that suddenly the sun's come back in the last few days and you feel like, oh, I'm ready to go now, and there's sort of an excitement, and we do go with the cycles, don't we? So how does the moon affect all of that?
So the reason I really adore working with the moon is because, exactly, you mentioned the point before, they did us an absolute number when they put the new year at January the 1st. They were like, how can we really sabotage everyone from being their best self? I know. So what we normally do is we live in this very linear way where the 1st of January comes, we try to make these resolutions, but it is, for me, absolutely pointless to try to make resolutions and to dream and to envision your life when it's cold and dark and grey and everything in nature is in hibernation. But we kind of push against it. It doesn't feel right, but we do it. So we make these resolutions in January. We've started to fail them by February. So then we feel rubbish. We're like, well, that stuff doesn't work. This doesn't work. I'm useless. I'm rubbish. And then by March, we've forgotten what they are. And then before we know it, we're all sitting around going, it's Christmas in 6 weeks. And the year just passes us by. So the first thing I'd love to touch on that is, obviously, I think this episode's coming out around the spring equinox.
It's coming out on the
20th, the day of.
So the spring equinox is the 20th of March this year, and the spring equinox is the start of the astrological new year. So this is a new beginning, but now with nature on our side. So we've all commented on how in the past few days, having that bit of sunshine, we've all gone, and you smell the air and you're like, I can smell new beginnings. Yes, it's on the air. We feel, and that's how we should be. We feel alive. So on the spring equinox, this is where we look at the first few months of the year. Have we got to where we hoped we'd get to? The chances are probably going to be no, because we're not meant to. We're meant to have been steadily coming into the year. So the spring equinox gives us this beautiful opportunity to wipe the slate clean. If we've not felt like the year started how we want it to, we get to start over again, but now in connection to nature. So the spring equinox is my personal new year. That's the only time I'll set like intentions and resolutions for the year. And then I can work with nature kind of the whole way through it. What the moon does is, because the moon's got this kind of 29.5 day-ish constant cycle, the moon gives us at least 2 points in a month on a new and full moon, if we check in, to pause and to stop and to say, am I going in the direction I want to go? And if not, why not? So we take that conscious control over our own life, so that month on month, we're not straying so far over here that before we know it, our life is unrecognizable. We've lost ourselves. We don't know where we are. And then it's Christmas again. We have this constant little check-in point of that little, okay, no, I'm going in the wrong direction. Oh, I'm repeating that pattern over again. I'm doing that same thing I said I wasn't going to do again. I didn't go after that opportunity again. So we've got this constant, it's such a tool of self-awareness and growth. And it's honestly life-changing.
Something you said a few times that I've listened to is that idea of starting lots of, now's the time that ideas are going to be popping into your head. I mean, Esther and I are absolutely dreadful for this. Well, bam, 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 we've got idea this, we're going to do a short film, we're going to write a sitcom, we're going to, da, 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 da. And then you don't really start any of them, or you start a bit and then you just don't finish any of them. And I've loved your just a little word of warning about Aries.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank you. I'll write my stuff down and then I'll back off.
I'm like they're calling you out. I say that to people with the moon. If you're going to manifest with the moon, only work with 3 to 5 intentions at a time, because the chances are what people do, they come to lunar work and they go, right, I want a new job, a new relationship, a new house, a new car, a new this, a new this. It's impossible. And then after 1 month you go, well, see, that moon stuff doesn't work, that manifesting stuff doesn't work. And it's like, oh, come on. So what I always say to people, if you're just starting this work with 3 to 5 intentions. 1 or 2 of those need to be quite small, because what we need to do is self-trust is like a muscle. You've got to start to build it. And that's why in the beginning, there's always a lot of joking in the spiritual world about ask for a car parking space, ask for a parking space, manifest a car, because there's not really a big emotional attachment to a car parking space. But when you go into that car park and you say, angels or guides or God or goddess or universe, whoever, or please give me a part, and it works, then you go, oh, I created that. And then you start to believe in yourself and your power again to create. So 1 or 2 smaller things that you can achieve, 1 or 2 bigger things that are going to stretch you a little bit and expand you a little bit, that might take more than 1 lunar cycle to work with and to bring through. But you only want to work with 3 to 5. And then as you create those and make them come true and start to believe in yourself more, then you can start to move to kind of bigger and bigger and bigger intentions from there. But yeah, so it's a really sneaky form of self-sabotage where we try to do a life overhaul of 400 things at once and we can't.
And then you don't do any of it.
Yep.
And then it's another year goes by. And then,
and then you feel like you failed. And then, so if somebody's starting this work, because what I get slightly confused by is, well, hang on, the moon's in Aries or the moon's in Pisces. And then I go, well, my moon's in Pisces. So how does that affect, and I sort of almost get too confuddled by it. So how do we start?
Start really, really, really simple. So the first thing I would normally ask people to do is I always start at the end to get to the beginning. So we have, the moon's got 8 different phases, but we'll maybe just touch on the key ones today. So the dark moon is the couple of days before a new moon. And this is the lowest energetic and emotional part of the lunar cycle. And I love working with skeptics because I'm like, okay, just try it. And also, if it doesn't work for you, that doesn't work for you, find something else. But what people will start to notice is that if you pay attention, the times that your boss really irritates you, your partner does that annoying thing that you're like, you're on my last nerve, I can't stand it. You don't like the wallpaper in your house, you don't like this or that. It's going to be the dark moon. And what the dark moon does is most people are really bad at knowing what they do want, because our little ego mind, our human mind, sometimes will only ever dream half a dream because we're afraid we might not be able to make it come true. We get to, especially again as women, a woman with a big goal and big dreams, you just think she is. You think you are. So again, we're very much taught to squish our big dreams and ideas, because then there's that fear of, oh, what if I get judged, or what if it doesn't come true, or what if then I have to be seen, or so we're very bad at knowing what we do want, but we're really good at knowing what we don't. So the dark moon is going to show you what you don't want. It's going to bring up all that emotion you've been suppressing, all the times you didn't speak your truth, all the times you've let yourself be walked over, all the times that things haven't worked out, the little things you're letting slide in your relationship when you're letting certain things happen that you don't actually agree with, but you've just done it for so long, all going to come up around a dark moon. So then the new moon is a moment in time where the sun and the moon meet in the sky. It's the beginning of a whole new lunar cycle. So the new moon says to you, okay, you know what you don't want, flip that. What do you want? What do you actually want? Let's pick 3 to 5 things we're going to work with over the following lunar cycle, the next 29 and a half days. So on a new moon, you set intentions of, okay, fine, give this a try. These are the 3 to 5 things I want to work on. Over the next 2 weeks, then the moon waxes, which means the moon's getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the sky. So this is the outward facing part of the lunar cycle where we too go, okay, I've set these intentions. What do I need to do to make it happen? I want a new job. Is my CV up to date? Can I register with some employment agencies? Can I start telling friends and people I bump into that I'm looking? Can I get really clear on the role that I want and how I want to feel in that role and how I want my skills to really be kind of thought highly of? Can I get really clear on this? And then what can I do? Halfway through the new and full moon, we get what's called the first quarter moon. So this is where you look in the sky, you'll see exactly half the moon in the sky. And this is the time when there's going to be synchronicity, signs, everything's starting to happen. So this is the time of the lunar cycle, that whole kind of 2 weeks where we just say yes to everything. We follow the signs and synchronicities, even if they don't seem to make a lot of sense. We put ourselves out there. We let ourselves be seen. We let ourselves be heard. And this is what we do for the 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, we'll get a full moon. So whereas the dark moon is the lowest energetic and emotional part of the lunar cycle, the full moon is the highest. And this is why, again, when you start to know about lunar work, you'll start to notice, like when I lived in central London on a full moon, I'd be like, because everyone's just... So this is where all our emotions are pulled to the surface. So this is where everyone's beeping their horns and pushing each other out of the way and everyone's frustrated. And what the full moon does then, I'm sorry, if I can just backtrack a tiny bit. A lot of people talk about not being able to sleep on a full moon. Around a full moon. The reason for this is in the few days before a full moon, as the moon starts to reach her peak, this is the last big push of lunar energy to get things done. So the moon is kind of saying to you, hey, listen, you haven't got time to go to sleep. 2 weeks ago, you set these intentions. You said you wanted to write that book. This is where you've got to write through the night. This is where you've got to get your CV out there. This is where you've got to do things. So if you're finding you're not sleeping, it's the moon being like, come on, come on, come on. So the full moon then illuminates our life. And one of the first things I ask people to do on a full moon is to celebrate yourself, because we don't do that enough. Again, as women, we're like, oh, who do I think I am? And I better not, you know, celebrate yourself. Oh, do you know what? I did that thing and I did it really well. And I followed that little nudge and I did it well. And I kind of made that thing happen. And that was really good of me. Celebrate yourself. But then what the full moon will also do is show you where you got in your own way. And so then you'll get to look at it and go, someone told me about that job and I didn't go for it because I thought that I probably wasn't going to be able to do the role, and then I got in my own way, and I got that invite to that networking thing, but I didn't go because I thought that no one might talk to me while I was there, and I got a bit afraid to go. And so we get to then begin to see, these are my sabotages, these are the ways that I get in my own way, this is what I do. And we normally feel, again, a heightened emotion around the full moon. It's normally frustration at ourselves or anger at ourselves for like, why did I not speak up in that moment? And why did I not put myself forward in that moment? And why did I shrink again in that moment? And then the moon wanes then for the next 2 weeks. So as the moon wanes or gets smaller, this is the releasing part of the lunar cycle. So then we go, okay, that self-doubt, I don't want to feel that self-doubt anymore. So over this waning lunar cycle, I'm going to tell myself every single day that I believe in myself and I can do this and I've got this, and I'm going to create affirmations around how wonderful I am, and I'm going to look myself in the mirror every day and say, Kirsty, you did this and this and this really well today, so I can start to believe in myself. I'm going to let go of that friendship that doesn't feel very good anymore, and when I spend time with them, I come home and worry about what's wrong with me or why I'm not as pretty as they are, or I don't want to go out and get drunk with people anymore, so I'm going to just stop doing a little bit of that. And this is where we have, again, those difficult conversations, and we start to really let things go in our life, and then we'll come back down again to that dark moon that'll show us what we don't want, so we can create a new cycle with what we do want. And this will repeat 13 times through a year. We get 13 lunar cycles in a year, so you've got 13 opportunities to sit with yourself, well, 26 if we do both, to sit with yourself at a new moon and go, what do I want? Sit with yourself at a full moon, where did I get in the way of what I wanted? And even if you did that for just 3 months, you would know yourself. And then you can, the difficult thing is, and I'll just give everyone a little like heads up here, and this is why a lot of people then stop doing it. It will be confronting because you won't then be able to blame everybody else out there. You'll get to know that it's me, I'm the problem. Like, I got in my way. I didn't do that. I didn't stand up for myself. And then you get to start to make those changes, and you get to start to, as we've talked about most of this podcast, you get to take back the power and control over your own life to make the changes that you know that you want to make. But because the moon is constant, we don't just go from New Year to Christmas. We go every single month, that little like looking in the mirror and being like, oh, okay, but that will change. And over time, as you start to let go of those things, then you're going to look in the mirror and go, God, I did. Look what I made happen. I did that. It's truly life-changing.
Yeah.
And then you
it's
trust in
empowering.
yourself, don't you? You know, you trust in yourself.
Yeah.
How do you bring astrology into that? Because I've been delving into astrology for like the last 18 months, and I know quite a bit about. I've looked at Susie's charts. I look at my chart. So how do you bring astrology into it? And also, is there a planet that you feel is really slightly more telling or important than the others?
So to your question before, the next layer to that, once you've started to work with each new and full moon, then you start to understand the sign that the new and full moon falls in. So throughout a year, we'll have a new moon in every sign of the zodiac and a full moon in every sign of the zodiac. So that adds the next layer then as to, so for example, our next moon is going to be a Virgo full moon. It's also going to be a lunar eclipse. But when we look at Virgo moons, the Virgo moon is always the last moon before we move into the spring equinox. So it's a moon of incredible healing, purging, releasing, letting go, where we're being overly critical, where we wait until it's all perfect before we'll make a move. It's a sign of the witch and the earth goddess. Where am I denying my own power, my own wisdom, my own magic? How can I step into this? So then learning about the signs that the moon's in gives us an opportunity to work with the energy of every single sign of the zodiac throughout a year as well. The next layer on that would be that we start to look at the aspects. So at the time that there is this full moon is making a connection with Uranus, who's the planet of liberation, freedom, awakening. So Uranus is working with this moon to say, you've really got to free yourself now from this overthinking, perfection, whatever it might be. The moon might be working with Neptune. And then we start to bring in the elements of what all of the planets are doing at the same time as a new or full moon. But that, as you just said, just takes time to learn. So again, if people think they need to know all of that, they won't start anything. So it's like, first of all, just start sitting with yourself at new and full moon. And that for you might be enough because it's just those check-in points. But if you're like, no, astrology is speaking to me, I want to know more, then start to go on and explore more as well.
And listen to Kirsty's cosmic weather report.
Yes,
Thank
I do.
you.
I do.
And
I do.
And I'll tell you what you need to know.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
Because I do listen to it, and sometimes I wonder, well, like, I'm an Aquarius rising and a Pisces moon. So how does this, you know what I mean? It's all, how does that then align with my moon or my Mars in Leo or whatever, you know, it's sort of, but I just need to dive a bit deeper.
Well, that's for each individual to do, because if I want to make the reports I do so that everyone can take something from it. And what you would start to look at then is that's why when we mentioned at the beginning, the planets don't make us do anything. What we need to do if we want to dive deeper into astrology is get to know our own chart. And then what's happening if you've got your own birth chart. So our birth chart is almost like a blueprint. Our souls choose the exact moment they want to come to Earth based on that chart. And everything in that chart is going to teach you about all the different lessons and the challenges and the positive aspects of yourself and who you came here to be and what you came here to overcome. It's all there in your birth chart. And then what happens, because the planets are in constant motion, they're what's called transiting your birth chart. So if you imagine your birth chart is a load of cars parked in a car park, and then you've got another kind of cars driving around those cars. They're going to make aspects or be next to different cars at different times. And this is when the actual astrology of the moment will then work with your own charts. So some of us are going to be worked with in a different way than others, depending on where that's. So there's an overarching theme of this is what's happening in the sky. This is our cosmic weather. It's going to rain. There's going to be a pothole. There's going to be this. But then when you can learn your own birth chart, you can drill in deeper to go, okay, that rain's going to come and it's going to bring this and this because it's working with this and this in my chart. And one thing I say to people all the time is I've been studying astrology for over 20 years and I don't think I've scratched the surface. It's a huge subject matter that you could learn and learn and learn about. So don't let that stop you from taking some of the wisdom and doing something. Because if you're going to be like, oh, well, I can't take any of this on board because I don't know what it means to my Pisces rising, that again is another part of our ego going, yeah, this astrology stuff, like let's not do it. So start simple and start small, and then if it calls to you, then start to learn your own chart to know that, okay, I've got planets in Pisces, so all of these planets at the moment in Pisces are going to be talking to my Pisces planets. I'm going to be feeling this more right now.
What I love is that sense of that there is untapped potential within everybody, and that you know, I was looking at the moon last night. It's been amazing. The moon's been amazing
with Venus there as well.
And it's
I mean, oh yeah.
it's been beautiful, and to seeing the shape, because you don't normally see the shape
No.
of the moon. Is that why you can see it? Because Venus is there?
No,
Oh,
it's just because of the current kind of where everything's aligned at the
okay.
moment, so that we're seeing like that shadow of the moon that we don't normally
Because
see.
that was incredible. I mean, I am very grateful to you for explaining, because I'm so, like, physics is just not a strong point, and I'm like, oh yeah, the moon isn't actually giving off light. It's because the sun is. It is a whole thing. You know,
Exactly.
we just go through life kind of not paying attention to actually the reality of things. But that potential, and it feels, and to put yourself in charge of actually fulfilling the potential and drawing the potential out of yourself. I know we're going to have to go soon, and I really wanted to ask you, because your legacy is already amazing, but you know, the podcast is called Limited Time Only, and we set it up because we started it and we thought of that name because we've got to that point. We were both 42, I think. We were like, oh god, right, we've got like however long left, don't know, we've got to achieve stuff, you know, and it's that sense of limited time only on the planet. So what do you hope that things that you'd still like to achieve? You haven't got very long to answer it, but things you might still like to achieve, and think what you'd like your legacy to be.
Oh, they're
Quite
beautiful
hard, isn't it?
questions. And you know, yeah, I'm gonna take those and journal on them. I think I would just love my legacy to be that I helped people to make sense of the world through knowing and understanding themselves more. And I would just love my legacy to be that I just helped people to know that everything's already within them. And even when I do, one of the first things I say on most workshops I do, and I'm doing a goddess path, like mystery school coven at the moment. And I said to them on day one, you're all probably going to really dislike me as part of this, because you're going to come to me and be like, give me all the answers. And I'm not going to give you the answers. I'm going to teach you to find those same answers within yourself. And that's what I would love my legacy to be, that I help people, rather than tell you anything or convince you of anything, I help you to find those same answers within you. And then you realize in that how amazingly powerful you are. And to answer your question of what else I'd love, I mean, I think I mentioned at the beginning, I feel like the power's been turned back on, and I'm aware at the moment there's something stirring in me where there's just this knowing of I'm capable of so much more, and I've got so much more to offer and to give. And I'm equally very aware of all the afraid parts of me that have been keeping a lid on that I've been really working on, like taking the lid off there.
Yeah.
And one thing I always try and speak to people about is when it comes to purpose, people are always like, I want to find my purpose. Like, your purpose is not some elusive thing out there that one day you're going to find and your life will be fixed. And your purpose isn't just one thing either. So when I look at my life, I truly feel like at the moment I'm living a life of purpose. I'm doing what I came here to do. And I'm aware there's so much more. I'm aware that my purpose very soon is going to evolve into something even bigger and even greater. And when I was teaching yoga in village halls 10 years ago, I was living my purpose. So our purpose is in a constant evolution with us as we allow ourselves to grow and expand. And so I've got ideas of what comes next, but equally I'm unsure of what comes next. But I just know that the more I keep growing and expanding now into my own power and just giving what I've got to give and share in each moment from a place of truth and authenticity, that the next level of purpose will become clear. But I just know that this is just the beginning and there's so much more. And I'm in a real space of trust at the moment with the universe of just, okay, allow it to unfold, allow it to unfold, allow it to unfold, allow it to unfold, and don't resist it. Just get out of the way, because I'm the one that's been in the way. I've had the handbrake on. I've had my foot on the accelerator being like, I'm ready, universe, at the same time I have the handbrake on being like, and the universe now is like, are you going to let go of that handbrake? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll let go of that handbrake. And then it's like, the way I described it with this eclipse portal we've got coming up, we've got to have our foot on the accelerator, but then we've got to take our hands off the steering wheel and let the universe come in. And even if we're going, oh universe, why are we going this way? Oh my God, we don't take back a hold and try and go our way. We go, okay, I don't know where we're going, but all right, okay, I'm going to trust. And I'm like, I have this vision of us all going past each other, like waving our hands at each other, being like, I've got no idea what we're doing, but what a ride, you know?
Yes.
I feel like that's what we need to be doing at the moment, is just taking our hands off. Like little human me knows nothing in comparison to what soul me knows. So now it's like my next stage of evolution and purpose is take your hands off the steering wheel and be guided into that next level of purpose.
Oh, that's so fantastic. And you really, your positive energy that you give out and the community that you sort of, yeah, helped to birth. That's a strange phrase, but it does feel like the positive energy that I get from listening to you is so powerful, and it makes me feel connected to everyone else that is listening to you. Obviously not exactly the same time, but it just does feel like that. And just thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I hope that you know what great work you do and the positive impact you have on so many people's lives. It really is fantastic.
I'm trying to believe it more, so thank you. That's one of my work in progresses.
It is incredible. And I'm thrilled that I'm going to be at the spring equinox ceremony.
I know, and I'm gutted that I can't be there. I'm running a workshop that day and I'm really annoyed. But
next
the next
time.
one.
I'll try and say hello. I'll try and come and say hello. I'm sure there'll be
Please
hundreds of people,
do.
but I'll come pop and say hi. But thank you
Please.
so
my
much.
pleasure. Thank you for having me. I've
Thank
loved
you.
it.
You have been listening to Limited Time Only.
That really was a treat
Yeah.
to speak to Kirsty. I hope I wasn't too starstruck.
Did you feel really starstruck?
I did, because
Yeah.
she genuinely has been the voice of positivity and, I don't know, encouragement and expansion in my head every Monday for so long. I mean, I know that her Cosmic Weather Report does come out on a Sunday, but I tend to listen to it on a Monday when I'm not encumbered with children. So it was amazing talking to her. And she really doesn't, unlike me, waste a word. No stuttering, no repetition. She'd be brilliant at Mallet's Mallet. If you haven't played it yet, Kirsty, but don't play with me because you'll just win so easily. Because I'm like malfunction.
I thought she was amazing. She's just a source of inspiration. She's infectious. She's so positive and
it makes so much sense.
Yeah, felt totally uplifted by her.
Yeah.
Just a ray of sunshine, and it does make so much sense. So much sense.
And I am also, I'll be seeing her in person when I go to the spring equinox ceremony on the 22nd of March in London. So I will report back about that
good.
on our next episode.
Yes.
So I'm thrilled to be doing that. So yeah, I'm going to be like, I don't know.
I love you. I love you.
If you can see what I'm doing on an image, maybe we'll post this bit. This will be me in a couple of days. Thank you,
Dancing
Kirsty.
at Kirsty.
Thank you very much, Kirsty.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us on our first episode back of Limited Time Only Season 5. It's been so nice, hasn't it, Esther?
It's been lovely. I feel very lucky, and it's just nice to be back. It's nice to be back, eh?
Nice to be back. And we are very much wanting to encourage the community of LTO. And we've got lots of things planned. And if you want to find out about them before anybody else, do sign up for our mailing list. Go onto Instagram, the link in the bio to sign up for the mailing list. Also, it's in the stories and posts and things. And also, you can send us an email at limitedtimepodcast@gmail.com and we will pop you on the mailing list. And we'll work out how it all works before. We will get there.
We will get there. And the reason we're asking you to do this is basically the algorithm's a bit of a pain. So if we can reach you and let you know when we're going to start doing our lives, as in like theatre stuff, as in doing limited time only in person with people, and let you know about guests, and also for LTO Brief, which starts next week, which is our little mini episode. So we'll be on every week. You can put suggestions in of topics. We're going to pull a topic out of a hat from people on our mailing list, and then we're going to riff around it for about 20 minutes. So yeah. So please do. It'll be lots of fun, and it'll be so nice to have you in the LTO community, baby. Community. Yeah, baby. So thank you very much, everybody. Go and look at the moon. Get that energy. Feel good about yourself, because you should, because you're all great. And we'll see you next week for LTO, a pick-me-up in podcast form.
limitedtimepodcast@gmail.com.
You don't need to do the dot at the end.
Oh.